We finally entered 2019, the final year. Well, we get one more season for My Little Pony, which is going to be the 9th season, and it's going to be premiering either in March or April. And the only thing that we really want to see from the last season of the show is a final good impression. Because next year, we're going to see Generation 5, which will be the next generation of My Little Pony. I really have mixed opinions about this last year because I was starting to really enjoy Generation 4 a lot, to the point that I wish I could have been a Pony years before I became one in May of 2016. But the more I think about Generation 5, the more I think that it's probably a good idea to have the Generation 5 to be a reboot instead of being a sequel to Generation 4, what some fans want to see after Friendship is Magic is over. Here's a video on to why My Little Pony Generation 5 is a reboot. Now, before any of you ask, yes, I am aware that I'm really going to be kind of ashamed that Generation 4, is going to be the final, is going to end this year with 3 specials from it, and probably in a 200th episode that could be very similar to the 100th episode Slice of Life, which I think that's what the episode is called in Season 5. And the fact that they're trying to, and even though we didn't get any information about Season 9 yet, we still hope that Hasbro will at least to go out with a bang with the season premiere and finale of Season 9. Now, people will completely complain about that Generation 5 is going to be a reboot because apparently they really don't want to see a reboot because, of course, change is not usually a good thing when it comes to the fandom of My Little Pony. Since that past generations were terrible, while the 4th generation was one of the best things that Hasbro has ever did. Well, here's the reason why I think that Generation 5 is a reboot. Well, I can understand that starting all over again, like they've been doing ever since they began My Little Pony back in the 80s, is starting to become really redundant. But at the same time, they probably tried their best to improve themselves. Now, I didn't watch Generations 1 through 3, but I did heard opinions and reviews on why Generations 1 through 3 are terrible. And considering the fact that Generation 4 completely changes everyone else's perspective on ponies, in other words, bronies in this case, you can tell that they're trying to do something completely different on what they're going to do for the 5th generation. First, let me get to the discussion of mainly Twilight Sparkle and that she might be an unicorn again instead of being an alicorn. Now, when she became an alicorn in Generation 4, people were so furious at this because they really didn't like the fact that Twilight became an alicorn way too early, or probably they didn't like the changes of what's going on, like the additions of Starlight Glimmer and stuff like that. Well, in Generation 4, there were 2 eras. The first era was like Seasons 1 through Seasons 4, and while Era 2 is Seasons 5 through 9, mostly because they're trying to do some different ideas by adding new characters in order to have the show continue for a bit longer in order to last for a couple years. To me, I'm really not against the idea of Twilight being an alicorn in My Little Pony, that is. Equestria Girls is a different story. But at the same time, I think that they're trying to bring her back into a unicorn because they want to do something completely unique and completely different with this new direction of what they're going to do. I can understand that people think that having different actresses and different character designs is a really bad idea, but if you really think about it, they really changed the characters for the better when Season 1 premiered in 2010, which is earlier this decade. You can tell that they tried to do something completely different and try to be more hip and kind of modern in order to have people get sucked into the world of My Little Pony, even if it's just a little kid's show. And I think the reason why they want to do a reboot is to have Twilight kind of be like a bookworm again, but probably be a bookworm and not be a princess again. Since that there were comics that they made other characters princesses like Pinkie Pie in her chaos form, and while other characters, well, probably turn into princesses in the other comics, I think. And they probably might have the other characters be a princess in Generation 5 if that's a possibility. It may be kind of off-putting, but you never know what they're going to do for Generation 5. Again, a reboot is probably the most important things because one of the biggest problems with Generations 4 final seasons is that it completely turns off so many people due to the newer seasons and newer ideals, like the school ideal. To be honest, I never have a problem with it, but at the same time, one of my subscriber fans, like Boney Boy, completely was done with My Little Pony because it was getting way too predictable and it completely rehashes a lot of ideals. So they probably have a reason to do another reboot in order to start over and in order to do something completely different and way better. And even though if people might have scary feels that Generation 5 would probably be the same as Generations 1 through 3, you never know what's going to happen because Generation 4 surprises us back in 2010. It might surprises us in 2020. Also, I think that what I need to get to is probably of what the characters are going to be like in Generation 5. They might be kind of similar, but they might have different character traits. Like, Rainbow Dash is like this cool pony, but in Generation 5, she could be taken seriously if you completely think if they really want to make this a proper reboot. While I do think that Rainbow Dash is one of my favorite ponies out of all the characters in My Little Pony, I still think that having a completely different character design and character personality from Rainbow Dash will probably be more serious. Since that the links that we keep seeing from the internet really shows us what they're going to do for the next step of MLP. I mean, in Season 9, they pretty much did everything what they did. I mean, they maxed out all the characters for the most, I think. And we completely saw all the main characters' parents. And we probably saw some returning characters like Sherlock, I think, and Queen Chrysalis, I think that's what her name is. Well, they try to take over the war multiple times. And they're really having a difficult time to find a new villain, so they probably need to find different ideas for what they can do for a villain in the 5th generation. And if there's something that I really think that people, especially the fans of My Little Pony Generation 4 needs to understand is that I think the next generation won't probably work out. Because to be quite honest, it will probably be the same thing as the earlier seasons of My Little Pony. I mean, if Generation 5 is just going to be the sequel to Generation 4, we will probably see the same thing repeatedly. The photos that I'm showing are fan arts from DeviantArt and other websites. So to be quite honest, these pictures are just mostly of what people want to see, or if they want to show their love to the show. While I can understand what they're coming from, I still think that it won't work out completely. The thing is that if this continues after Generation 4, it will probably be a very difficult time of what the story is going to go through next. I know that some of the villains pretty much are gone forever, like the main villain from the Season 3 premiere. And most of the ideas of what they have, like introducing the old characters, they didn't completely do that completely. Like, for instance, Blue Blood, well, he only makes some appearances in the comics. And then, maybe in the season 8 finale, Clousy Crow completely went into prison because of her abusive ideas on to take over Equestria didn't turn out well. They probably will be able to rehash it again. Sure, we still didn't get any information that there's going to be a 10th season, but for the way that there's no announcement since after the announcement of a 9th season, which is probably 2 years ago, I guess there's really no point onto continue on with this. With this in mind, I think that the most of the main characters, like Closet Girl, which is a villain actually, might be able to have a return in season 9, kind of like Queen Chrysalis did in season 8, where she actually made one final return and then probably disappeared. And as for most of the designs, most of the ideals of what's going on, like people saying that Applejack won't be able to return in the reboot, which isn't confirmed, but it's still a possibility that it could happen. I think the reason why they didn't want Applejack to be part of the main 6 again is because they wanted to do something completely different with this reboot, like have a different element of the harmony of elements of harmony. Like, they want to replace honestly with something else. I think there was something else like responsibility or something like that, which they didn't actually do didn't do responsibility as one of the elements of harmony. So I think that they probably to add something completely different in Generation 5 with a different element of harmony. Also, if Applejack isn't going to be returning in Generation 5 as a main character, she could be a side character, like her daughter Apple Bloom. But then again, it's all up for debate. And and one of the major reasons onto why I didn't like the idea of Generation 4 is ending is probably because of the movie that came out a year ago. To me, they probably put a lot of effort into Generation 4, and for how much effort and care that they put into the My Little Pony movie, which is still good even by some critics, you can tell that they're just trying to have some kind of good payoff after all the years of you being a Bonnie. This started in 2010 and it ended. And it completely shows and they completely show the feature film on the big screen in 2017. 7 years when the show was going, they released your favorite characters on the big screen. And even though it wasn't a major success by some other fans, it was probably one of the best things that Hasbro has ever done for Generation 4, since they never thought that the movie was actually gaining more success in theaters, despite not getting a lot of money in the box office. And the fact that some critics completely panned this movie. I still can't get over that no matter what. Anyway, and I think that some of the new species, like the sea ponies, hippogriffs, and other species, I think they want to do something completely unique in Generation 5. You can argue that, well, they're pretty much new here, and it's Generation 4's own thing, which kind of makes sense if you're talking about Equestria goers. But with creatures like the ones that we saw in Season 8 in hippogriffs, you want to see more of them. It's great that we get to see hippogriffs in Season 8 and possibly Season 9 after the movie, but with characters that you completely remember the most, you want to see more of them in My Little Pony in general. So I got a feeling that in Generation 5, they will probably have returning species and probably use them for some kind of different plot elements or kind of land of what they're going to do in Equestria, which is probably a good idea for what the creatures can do in the situation that they're in Generation 5, unlike in Generation 4. So, to be quite honest, The only thing that I'm actually really worried about is probably the fan base behind it. This right here is the reason why My Little Pony is completely popular. Because in Generation 4, it got so many friends and so many friendships throughout the entire world, possibly, since My Little Pony has become really, really big. And people really want to give the show so much chances. Believe me. I really think that a show like My Little Pony can easily stay that reputation of the bowling fandom if Generation 5 will be able to have the same kind of will have kind of the same kind of charm as Generation 4 does. Not copying all the elements like the comedy, the breaking the fourth wall stuff, or any of that kind of stuff, but mainly of what they're going to do for for what people love about My Little Pony. There are some possibilities that there are some bonus that might be leaving the fandom due to Generation 5's decisions, but don't judge episode 1 just yet when you watch the first episode from Generation 5. Because again, there's going to be a reboot film in 2020, and even if it may be CGI, which I'm not going to be a fan of because I really don't like a lot of CGI shows, they could probably have the show back to 2D in the episodes, if that's a possibility. To me, I really missed 2D, but I understand 3D is kind of recommended and optional, but 2D is still not dated in TV shows, is all I'm saying. But my point is that the My Little Pony film, which is going to be a reboot film that's going to be coming out in 2010, will be the start of the film of the new generation. Since that this movie is coming out 3 years after the Generation 4 movie. So for what they're going to do in Generation 5 will probably be the starting point of the first season of Generation 5. Again, I don't know if the show will be coming out in 2020 or 2021 since the reboot film might be coming out in 2020, but we don't know what's going to happen next. Anyway, as much as people really want to see more from Generation 5, Generation 4, then you never know. Well, I'm sorry, but but season 9 is going to be the final season still. Despite if the show might have some questionable decisions of once we see any screenshots, real screenshots of Generation 5. I mean, show Equestria Girls will continue on, even if you like it or not, but this is basically My Little Pony's own thing of what they're going to do for the generations of what they're going to show. Keep in mind, we grew up with Generation 4, even if we are grown men, and we learned so many lessons and it brought so many opportunities to actually show that we can do anything for friendship. And this show really proves that when Generation 4 hit premieres in the Hub channel, soon to be Discovery Family, and then as of now, it's a possibility that Generation 9 will come to an end. And we're getting to the next chapter of My Little Pony, which is going to be Generation 5. Again, it's your opinion on what you feel about Generation 5, but once Generation 5 is about to be premiering episodes, I'm going to try my best to review each episode and maybe the movie as best as I can, like everyone else, in order to show what kind of style that they're showing. Even if people may not agree with me, and I might have changed opinions once I see Generation 5 as a whole, but again, we still have time to think about it. We have 2.5 years maybe until the next generation comes. Just keep this in mind. Just because it's different doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Think about that.